In 2019 and 2020, I was working as a hospital chaplain, working some really horribly long hours, but every once in a while, I had the glorious opportunity to sleep in. Often, however, on these mornings, I was awakened by the sound of very loud children that were not mine, right under the window of our first floor apartment, the first floor of an old house just 1 block from the Capitol building in Charleston, West Virginia. These were the children in the family of our next door neighbors to the right. And so, of course, I came to loathe these parents who allowed their children to go all the way to the next front yard, not even the backyard, and play under our window before 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. My dislike of them increased when they kept calling the cops on a man who would hang out in the front steps of the church that was just across the street from us. Now, he would sometimes yell, but it was always at himself, and a simple walk to the bottom of the church steps and a, "Hey man, how you doing?" would call him into the realization that others could hear the words he was saying, and he would quiet down or walk around the block. But instead of saying, "Hey man," my neighbors would always call the cops. My dislike of these neighbors to my right increased when we learned that both of the parents worked for a conservative evangelical church in town, and the woman in the relationship even did outreach ministry work. Now, I say we learned as if my husband and I had together discovered this information, but really I knew this because I spent some rage time researching it up online. And I let my own hatred rise and grow. We had a community meeting at this church across the street to discuss the homelessness issue in our neighborhood. And all sorts of hatred was on display by my neighbors to the right of me. But so was plenty of love and care. And love and care from some unexpected places. Now, above us on the second floor lived 2 Republican guys in their 20s who worked for organizations I have no respect for. However, at this meeting, they became livid at our mutual neighbors to our right and how they were dehumanizing our other neighbor who sometimes hung out on the front steps of this church. They were upset that these neighbors who lived to our right would call 911 instead of do the neighborly thing and say, "Hey man, how you doing?" Or, "Hey man, quiet down." So I then had a couple of conversations with my second floor, 20-something Republican male neighbors. And we found out that, we had some folks in common, friends in common, the way you do when you live in a small town. And then as we're on our way to, I need to tell you, at this neighborhood, the kitchen table was actually an old watering hole, aka a dive bar. And everyone hung out there. Even folks in 12-step programs would go and get a table and not be pressured into drinking. It really was a community place, okay? It was a beautiful, beautiful place. So we start talking on the way out of this meeting with our neighbors on the second floor, and we all decide to head over to the old neighborhood kitchen table dive bar. At the dive bar, we gather around a table, and I, ever the subtle and tactful conversationalist, essentially was like, wow, I loved your response in there. Tell me more about that, And we had some great conversations. We bonded a little bit over our shared displeasure at our neighbors to our right. But we also bonded over a shared analysis of what the real problem and evil was, right? It was not our neighbor without a home who made his home the front steps of this church. It was the systems that created so much poverty in the state, that left so many who needed mental health treatment or substance abuse treatment without any care, that it was these larger systems, though our analysis of them differed, that created these problems. We were able to identify a common evil, a common enemy, that was not our neighbor to the right, and that was not the man who would hang out on the front steps of the church. Now, I'd be lying if together we came to a beautiful realization that we, could get over our dislike for our neighbor who kept calling 911. We didn't, not in the moment. I'm hoping both of us are there now. But we were able to have this shared understanding, and we grew to have a neighborly bond. We didn't become friends, but we became more friendly. We'd say hello and talk at the communal watering hole table and at our front porch. Most importantly, we knew that we were looking out for one another and everyone who called our block home. Those who woke us up before 9 a.m. included in this. Now, it is time for us to find our own shared tables, to gather around these tables to build relationship and be fortified by these relationships, as well as the amazing food I've heard you all can cook, right? Now, when we gather around these tables, we might disagree about who exactly the real enemy is, but we know that the evil is in systems. Our neighbors are not our enemy. Our neighbors are not our enemy. Some of our neighbors, like us, are afraid for themselves and their families. And some of them, in their fear, have believed the lie of scapegoating. The lie that it is some of us who are the evil, who are the enemy. We, my people, shall not believe these lies. We know that our neighbors are not our enemies. They do not need to be our friends, but we do need to know who they are and be in relationship, because we will not believe the lie that other people who are just people amongst us are our enemy, for that is the real evil distracting us from it. That is the systems that separate us working, the systems that turn us against one another and divide us, the systems that create poverty and oppression are our enemy. Following me? Okay. So we will organize against these. We'll build real relationship and power and rebuild the social fabric of our shared community life. We do this because we know that we are less susceptible to both hate and to persecution when we have a community to be in relationship with and protect us, right? We are less susceptible to let hate take over our fear when we know one another, when we can lean into love and relationship. And those of us who might be facing persecution or oppression are more safe when we are in community, because we, as a collective, can gather around and say, not today and not any day. We keep our people safe, and our people are all people. Amen? Amen. Amen. So, we will take care of our neighbors, providing pathways to communal care and love, not fear and hate. It's time for us to gather round the table. We'll take care of our people, whether here now or not yet here, who need care and protection. All those who we call neighbor. It's time for us to all gather around the table. We're going to stay focused. We're going to stay fortified in food and relationship, deep in relationship, real relationship. And now's the time when I'm going to be a tiny bit directive. Take it or leave it. In the years ahead, choose just a couple of news sources, ones that you can trust, read just those, and monitor your time on them. If we are spending more time consuming information about reality than we are co-creating reality, that's not going to be good for our psyches, our souls, our spirits, right? Thank you. Okay. We will mind our balance, right? We're not going to not find out what's going on in the world. We're going to take information, but we're also going to co-create the reality that we need here and now, okay? And I say this because I care about how you all will do, but also because we need you. We all will be needing each other to be active and present. So don't engage in fake fights online, okay? Build real relationship in the here and now. And some of you on Zoom who are a bit more housebound might be thinking, but how can I co-create this reality? We will have ways for you. Have no fear. Phone calls, checking in on each other, making sure that our people are okay. These are ways of actively co-creating a reality. Do not fear. There will be ways for all of us to engage. The cooking, the bread making, the art, the checking in, all of us have a role to play. In community, round the table, is where we find our fight and our resistance, where we find our paradise, where we create life and love. So, keep fortifying yourself with food, with fellowship, and with relationship. Keep coming back to gather round the table. Amen. May it be so, and may we make it so.